Hey, this is Jason Unleashed, guys. Part two of my doubleheader today, and I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad to have my guest that's coming on the show here because she is Tory Shulman from the nationally syndicated Daily Blast Live out of Denver. She's funny, she's smart, she is politically savvy. She's everything. And you're going to see why I'm such a huge fan of Tory Shulman. If you guys haven't seen Daily Blast Live, get into it. It's incredible. But I'll let Tori tell you. Let's bring her in. She just stepped into the boom chat. Go live. Going live with Tory Shulman. I need to stop singing on my show. You guys should tell me, Jay, stop singing on your show. Like, get it together.
Dude,
What am I doing?
what's up?
Tori!
I'm so close. Okay, sorry.
I know. Tori, I purposely have like a distance thing with my phone to make sure I'm in frame because like 4K sucks.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Tori. Welcome to Jason Unleashed. How you doing?
I'm so excited to be here, and I think your show's amazing, and I'm just so honored to be on it. So thank you for having me.
Well, Tori, first, I love and adore you, so thank you for being here. Secondly, yeah, of course. Like, I was thinking like, oh shit, I haven't had Tori on my show. She probably thinks she's not in the clique anymore. She's like,
I had so much FOMO. I was like, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool.
No. It was just because my life has been turned upside down. As you can see out my window, I no longer live in LA. This is a Miami palm tree. I'm now in Miami.
Muscle.
Thank you.
Muscle.
Yeah. I had to escape. I went from one quarantine shithole to another quarantine shithole. So here we are.
Well said, sir. Well said.
How was your Labor Day weekend? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm in Denver, and we went from 98 degrees to 28 degrees in the past 24 hours.
I know. My mom's in Albuquerque, and she said a huge cold front was going through the mountain region. That's kind of cool, though. I would take it over the humidity we're having right now.
Yeah, I'm glad that, like, to be honest with you, it was raining ash and fire from the Colorado wildfires, and then it started to snow, and I'm like, I'm in some kind of apocalypse. But right. I harvested all my stuff. I got my carrots, my zucchinis, my string beans, my blackberries. I don't know what to do with them, but they're out of the ground.
Oh wait. So is this green thumb Tori talking to me? Tori, I didn't know that you were of the garden variety. Like, what's going on in my world?
So I wasn't, but it turns out my grandmother was a good gardener, and my aunt is a hippie and a gardener. And as soon as the quarantine hit, I got groovy, dude, and I got into my gardening self. I grew a lot of stuff. I still don't know what to do with them, but I have them. I think I'm gonna go make a carrot cake. If anyone has suggestions for carrots, like a lot of carrots, like way too many carrots, please write in. Like
me and my dog are avid carrot eaters. I feed
my dog. Yeah.
I mean, and like I'm that dude that Googles what not to feed your dog, and I'm like, oh, let me give my dog avocados. No.
I know. I was like, foie gras? No. Okay, fine. My bad.
Oh my gosh, Tori, you are killing the game on Daily Blast Live.
Thank you.
We talk, and of course, like I love and adore you. I watch the show every single day, all day parts, and your journey to becoming a part of that cast is so fascinating because here you are on a nationally syndicated television show, but prior to that, you've lived so many different lives as a comedian, as a YouTuber, as an actress who had her boobs shot on NCIS, like all these cool things. And you come from this incredible family pedigree. Your dad's a litigator, went to Yale, Harvard. Your mom's an art historian. And then you have this funny bone that wasn't really there. You didn't come from a comedic family. How did you nurture and honor this funny bone that is so awesome to experience? How were you able to grow that?
First off, thank you for like doing your research, because don't you hate it when they're like, hello, Tory Shulman, and you're like, that's not how you do it. Thank you. And props to you, host to host. My family is not particularly funny. My mom doesn't really have a sense of humor. My dad's really punny, like dad humor. Yeah. But I was socially awkward and very ugly growing up. Nah. And I had, for real. So I had a asymmetrical bowl haircut, sports goggles, and headgear all at once. I looked like Elizabeth Warren on meth, but as a 9-year-old. It was so bad. Anyway, I got made fun of a lot, right? And I think humor, what do you get out of that? You either freaking lose it or you gain a way out. And I used humor, and I was always in the class with the boys. I always wanted to do the harder stuff, and humor was like my way out. My grandma turned out to was very funny. So I think it's maybe skipped a generation. Sorry, my mom's watching. But I used it as a tool to get things. And I will be open about that. Comedy has been a way for me to get a manager, to get ahead, to get seen, to get in Hollywood. It's a great trick. I'm not an on-the-road comic. Like, I love comics, but I'm not an on-the-road comic. I did it to get representation. Like, I knew what I was doing it for.
Yeah.
But it's always been there in my back pocket, is like, get out of like bullying card.
I think a lot of people who experience those types of traumas when they're younger find it's almost like being a mutant, right? You have these powers that are deep-seated that you have to really engage and enact to survive. I mean, I totally identify with that, because being LGBTQ plus, growing up in New Mexico in the 90s, when the conversation and the acceptance of LGBTQ plus people was like not even a conversation, right?
Totally.
And so like you have to amass this armor with those powers that you have. For you it was comedy, for me it was dancing. So I completely identify with that. And it's cool that you've been able to really parlay that into a career, because here you are, you come to LA, you want to be an actress. And what were your parents? No. I went to LA. I was going to be a Janet Jackson, Britney Spears dancer. I feel you.
You kind of are. Like, you kind of made it.
Ish. But again, your parents were so scholastic and accomplished in DC. Like, you know, if you can make it in DC, you can make it anywhere. But when you said, "Hey, mom, dad, I'm going to LA to be an actress," what was that conversation like?
They were very supportive, thank the freaking Lord. My parents always wanted me to be a lawyer, and I would have been a fun lawyer. I would have been a great lawyer. But from the day I was born, I was like, I was meant to just be an entertainer. And I never stopped believing it. And it's weird. It was as if, like, at one point I was 35 and like scooping ice cream for a living at Salt and Straw, because they give health insurance to like part-time employees, you know, like, good for them. But the belief in making it never, like, not even a chip of it went away. Right. When I was when I'm scrubbing vomit off of Boys Town and WeHo, and it's like 10 at night, and I'm like, I'm still gonna make it. There was something about that confidence that I think they had to believe in. They're also super artsy fartsy, hippy dippy people. Like, I went to the theater once a month. We went to the Kennedy Center. We believe in museums. My mom works at them. So for me, I played up that whole like arts part of it. As soon as I started booking, I think they'd calm down a little bit. But yeah, when you're just like, I'm going to LA. It's
right. Well, look, my mom was like, let me pack you up.
Yeah. Yeah,
right. Bye. But that's cool that your parents nurtured that.
Very much so.
Even though they may not have been, I mean, your mom's an art historian, so there's definitely, look, my husband's a lawyer as well. There is creativity that goes into it. There is. They're like, you know, because lawyers are good at they're great victims, and they're great at making it seem like you're the bad guy, even though you're not. 100%. That's a skill. That's a skill. But you come to LA and you said starting to book. I mean, they say an overnight success is what, 10, 15 years in the making. Your journey when you finally got to LA, comedy, training at UCB, auditioning, how did you, like, what was your experience? And what were some of the I would say, valleys that you experienced on your way to becoming a nationally syndicated talk show host?
Dude, there were some deep, deep chasms of valleys. They were so bad. When I first got to LA, I got the part for CSI where I get shot in the boob and there's like a close up. It was like, ooh, this is fun. And then I booked something at Reel's channel, and it started to come easy for me at first. And that's the really hard part. I booked really easy at the first part. And after Reel's channel, which I got to meet a lot of wonderful people. I married my husband, who was a producer there. So like, I'm very close with those people. And after that, I'm like, it's going to be super easy. I could not book I was doing curses. Like, I thought I had been cursed. And at that point is when you either say you're going to do this or you're not, right? Like, you're in it or you're not in it. And so for exactly 10, 11 years, I stayed. I was a wedding stylist saying, are you saying yes to the dress? I scooped ice cream, like I said. I sold jewelry. I did everything possible. I did a bingo trivia game, hosting of that, anything I could to somehow make my way in. And I kept booking little things. And finally, I saw this audition for Denver and I said, this is what I want. And it turns out, and this is something you would definitely understand, I was asked to audition for DBL mostly because someone had heard of me on another show that I booked, but I had a good reputation of like being good. Can I curse?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Of being like a good fucking person. You know what I mean? Like to like, so I was on a show at Kin and it was Hack of All Trades and I was giving you hacks. And they got in touch with someone else and thank God they sat down next to each other and they said something and they brought me in. And there was like 5,000 people down to like 50 people, and we went into a hotel and they started tapping people. You'd go into a room. I know, I was gonna say, do you remember this? I was like, does this bring back fucking memories?
It's triggering. Tori, I'm so triggered right now.
It was a really difficult day, dude.
Right.
That was hard.
That was rough. It was rough. No, so to add insult to injury for that day, after they tapped everyone to go home, I had left my keys. I had to get my card validated. So I walk in as the woman who essentially brought all the talent then was saying, okay, you guys are making it to the next round. And I was like,
dude, that's right.
But it's okay though, because that you were a YouTuber. You've done so much. You appeared on Good Day LA. You really placed yourself in spots to be seen. But the layer that mattered, and I'm glad you touched on that, was being a good person, reputation, and not burning bridges. And I think a lot of younger talent now, especially with social media, one, things are so instant. Your success can come very quickly because we all have thousands of people in our pocket, and we don't know who's watching. We don't have a clue. We have somewhat of a clue, but not really who's watching what we're doing now. It could be a producer, it could be anyone. So the road to success isn't as long and arduous as it used to be for us
Correct.
100%. But you manifested this though, because in 2017, you were featured in an interview and you talked about how you wanted to be like Kelly Ripa and you wanted to do morning television, and that being you was what you were good at, that it wasn't about being a hosty host, that being Tory Shulman was always what won people over. And I think with DBL, and I know that's what I've had conversations with people, that's what won them over for you in DBL, because there's something so authentic about you. And even watching you now on DBL, I mean, let's get into it. 2020 has been dumpster fire, right?
And the fucking worst.
The worst. Almost to the point where you have to sit down and just ponder, like, what cosmic joke is happening? Like, why? Like, what is the lesson I need to learn?
In getting here, right? Totally.
Right, but every day you guys are in like 49 markets, and you have to go on air and talk about really hard stuff. And I've seen you be very raw. I've seen you talk to a white supremacist who you felt very uncomfortable because you are so staunchly proud, rightfully so, in your Jewish heritage. For you, Tori, now that you're in that seat, what do you struggle with the most? Like, what has been something you struggle with, and what has been something you've learned about yourself throughout the whole journey of 3 seasons of Daily Blast Live?
One is when to shut my mouth. And I know that sounds weird talking from a talk show host because I'm supposed to like talk for a living. But can I be honest? Like, I became a host and a moderator and got up the ranks because I learned when to shut my mouth. And that comes in all forms: email, text, communications, in meetings, things that you shouldn't just blurt. I'm just a blurter. I learned to discern before I spoke. Mm-hmm. That was a really big thing. And then the other thing I learned to do was slow down. I tended I just was a fast talker, and it really turned people off. So I've tried very hard to sort of ground myself, center myself, Xanax myself, but do anything I can to like ground myself. The most difficult by far is dealing with Trump as as taking both sides. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of stations in Texas. Right. We have a lot of Republicans, and we have a loud Facebook community that is very right wing. And I was hired as the liberal, progressive, DC coastal elite. Let's just say what it is, right? Like, sure. With the legal background, and it can come across as like Miss Know-It-All. Like, who are you? So my goal to get in between there is a tightrope every day. And when the pandemic hit, I'll be honest, Sam, the managing editor, she came up with this whole thing, Sam Shocker, was on maternity leave. So I never missed a day. I've been there since the pandemic started as the one person, right? So I had to deal with an audience that didn't, I had to have my audience trust me. Does that make sense? I had to sort of gain 100%. Their trust. So it is a tightrope every day, because sometimes I don't see the other side as a legitimate other side. So that's been very hard for me, really hard.
Well, and it's really hard because I think when you are as nuanced and as so indoctrinated in law, I mean, Tori, I have seen you break down whole policies in a sound bite because guarantee there's someone in your ear saying Tory rap or toss or whatever, to where it's like so digestible for the audience. Because politics right now, even though it's very intersectional with pop culture, it's very intersectional with how people move through the world because it's inescapable, it's still something that's very daunting because people don't understand bipartisanship. They don't understand a lot of things. So you have done an incredible job of making it palatable for an audience, but also really showcasing your chops. And coupled with the fact that in the darkest times of the pandemic, March and April, really, where we had no idea what was happening, where Dr. Piacoli was on every day saying, these people may die. You yourself as a woman, as a human being, also have to fend for yourself. You have to think about your husband, Brooks, sitting in that chair, being thrust into the moderator position on a national TV show, shitting bricks daily. I would.
That's when we became closer, I think, because you were like, you're doing okay. You're doing just fine. I believe you.
You're doing okay, sweetie.
You're doing amazing, sweetie. It was really, really hard. To be honest, though, I'm always better with a camera in my face. So I think I needed it. I'm super glad I had it.
Right.
But my concern was the tone.
Yeah.
Tone was, and I don't know if you can understand this, Bert Dubrow, our amazing executive producer, kept saying, comfort food.
Yes.
So we came up, Al and I, with mac and cheese.
Right.
And if you can think of like a tone right at the beginning of the pandemic, that's sort of just what people needed. And then the switch happened where politics kind of came back, you know? So we've been trying to like surf that wave, and it's live and it's difficult, and tone turns out to be almost more important than what you say.
Right.
Which has been something I've really had to mature into as a moderator. But I was thrown into it, so yeah.
And I think honestly, it's also part of your manifestation. I don't want to get all law of attraction on you, but I'm just really,
For sure it is. No, I know.
No, because look, you did that interview in May 21st, 2017. DBL audition was June of that year, and then all of a sudden here you are, and then you said you wanted to be in that chair doing what Kelly Ripa does. In a sense, Tori, that's what you're doing. You know, it's never the way you imagined it, but sometimes it's actually better. You know what I mean?
Totally agree with you. By the way, I think I manifested it too. I used to say every day, I just want to have coffee and be able to talk for a living, and that's literally like what I do. The other thing I did is I made a vision board, not to sound super The Secret and all that.
That's cool.
And I made it of having a wardrobe person. So it's a behind the scenes shot of someone fixing someone's wardrobe, right? And I was like, one day I will have a wardrobe person. And then June 2017, our wardrobe person came to our house and was like, I took a picture with her in front of the picture of the vision board, you know? Because, man, that was 20 years ago I put that picture. I mean, that was a wrinkled picture. You know, it was like sepia.
It's like
so, I mean, you got to hold on.
Yeah, you have to hold on. I think that's a testament to what a lot of people are experiencing now, is that there's so much uncertainty and we don't know. Look, I'm in Miami from Los Angeles with no job, doing this every day for free with uncertainty of what you don't know what's happening. You don't know what's happening, but I think people, if anything, all we have is faith and spirituality. And speaking of spirituality, something that you're really passionate about, that you've been for like over a decade now, is Buddhism, which was not shocking, but surprising to hear that you were practicing Buddhism. Tori, where and how?
I'm a tornado. How is this happening? I know. First of all, I just want to say your show, because you kept your routine, helped me keep my routine. And I promise you, Jason, many people have kept their routine because you kept it so professional and to the T every day. You have to understand that gives people a sense of purpose. It gave me a sense of kick my ass. So I want to thank you because your show I was very, very honored to be asked, but I was like, damn, this guy knows his stuff. And the routine helps people. It really does.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was very taken by your show, and I was inspired by the work ethic, I think, mostly. But for Buddhism, I get really jealous and I get really angry, or I have high emotions, right? And so I've worked with Buddhism to sort of just do this for 10 years. Instead of this, it's like, it's not like this, because I will never be like that, but it's like a tiny bit less, like 10% better.
What do you like that? This is news to me. Tori, you're so jovial. I mean, are you a Scorpio, Tori?
No, Capricorn, but I have very strong. When I get embarrassed, I get angry. When I get lost, I get angry. When I get angry and defensive a lot, and I tend to lash out, or I don't think before I speak. And Buddhism helped me also, to be super honest, when I was mostly very depressed.
Yeah.
So I started it because you always start it because like someone broke your heart or like something, right? Like there's a crisis. And I was very depressed. And this woman, Pema Chodron, she's like 80 years old. She's a New York woman who one day her husband said, I'm having an affair. She threw a rock at his head and then said, I'm getting divorced, shaved her head and became a Tibetan monk for the next like 50 years. And she's on Oprah and she's very relatable. So what I like is she relates Buddhism in a way that's digestible to me. And she says she's not perfect, like she has a really hard time, but I listen probably 3 times a week for the past 10 years to her specifically. She just really resonated with me. Her book, When Things Fall Apart, folks, if you're interested, it saved my life. If you're really having a struggle, When Things Fall Apart, Oprah was the one to put her on the map with that book, but it saved my life and it taught me a new way of looking at it. And I've used Tonglen specifically that I wanted to talk to you about for the quarantine, which is a way of breathing that I wanted to teach you and your followers as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is
cool. Absolutely.
Okay. So Tonglen means something in Sanskrit. I think great start, Tori.
Killed him, Tori.
Superstar. So the majority of people tell you to breathe in something that is good and breathe out the negative, right?
Right.
And in Buddhism, the idea is you have to face your shit. You've got to walk through your shit and you can't be scared of your shit. So she has you breathe in the negative. So that's the first change. So let's say right now, my pet was super sick during quarantine and I'm feeling so nervous. So I would breathe in the feeling of Josie Rose being sick, the nerves, the money, the travel, the quarantine, that sort of red, hot, thick feeling. Like I don't run away. I like breathe it into every pore of my being, which is scary to do for some people, right? And then I out breath. And on the out breath, you think of one thing in life that gives you a spark immediately when it happens to you. It can be different for everyone. Mine is when a sprinkler touches your foot and it's hot outside. That tiny bit of refreshment. Pema's is when someone gives you a hot cup of coffee. Someone else is when you get a bathrobe after like a shower, right? Like a quick feeling. So you breathe in this negativity and then you breathe out that sense of spark. And you do that over and over and over again. And then here's the cool part. After about 10 breaths, you start to breathe in that feeling of like worry and panic for everyone else on earth that's going through that at the exact same time as you. They're losing someone. They're scared. Financially, they're worried. You breathe all of that in. And what you do on the out breath is breathe out your sprinkler, whatever it is, to all of them. And what you do is you give it out to the world. And it's like an empathy creator. Yeah. And it creates empathy in a way that, oh my God, someone in the middle of France is lost. It's just a very interesting way of breathing backwards. And it sort of changed my life. So I've been working on that. I'm not great at it. I'm so not good at it, but I work on it.
This is so fascinating.
It's interesting, right?
And yes, it's interesting that the practice absolutely, of course, is interesting, but it's also it's equally as interesting that I would have never
Really? Is
had,
that right?
no, like Tori, like we're getting deep, Shulman. Kelly Schubert says hi. Hi, Kel.
Hi, Kelly. That's so cute. Ooh.
Wow, just
Yeah, because I think to be super honest with you, and I think you know that, when you've reached depression, you've reached a place in which only if you've been in depression can you describe it. You know what I mean? Like I see another person, I'm like, oh, you've been in the shit. And once you've been in the shit, you'll look for any way out. And this was my way. So now I'm like spouting it to whoever I can to help. Sometimes it helps people, sometimes it doesn't, but it sure did kick my butt into like a different way of looking at things.
Right. And I think that by sharing that also you are helping people. I think it's twofold beneficial, spiritually, altruistically, karmically, because they say that it's like practicing gratitude, right? In some capacity. You're supposed to, when you practice gratitude, when you're grateful, you make room for more to be grateful for. And I think it's in the industry we work in, hyper competitive. Like, I mean, I think what's happening in Denver with you guys and the energy is really cool because you guys are this unique island and this social experiment that's been very successful. And you all like each other. There's great chemistry. That's very rare to have that. And so,
Totally.
but let's say in the grand scheme of things in Hollywood or anything adjacent to Hollywood, this business, people don't want good for other people because we're trying to grab our own, right? We're trying to, like you, we give up everything. We sacrifice our lives, our mental health, our health, financial relationships to come to LA to pursue something that may more times than not doesn't work out for people, even though you've given everything you can. When you go to college, high school, you take the classes, get the credits, graduate. It's a definitive plan that works, true and true. You do this, you get that. LA, the business, Hollywood, whatever you want to call it, works like no other. So there's no code you can crack or course you can take that's going to net you a BA or an MA in that. It's like you may not get there.
And no one ever does. Like, you really have to believe, like Indiana Jones, that scene where he throws the sand on the invisible staircase. You just have to believe there's a staircase. Like you said, faith.
Right. And that's what faith is, believing in something you can't see. And I think now with COVID, the silver lining, Tori, I think of everything that's happened, if you want to look for silver lining, is that one, it's caused us to slow down and to deal with our shit, right? Never before in my 40 years on this planet have I had to sit with so much, because before it was go, 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 booked, working, just you had everything to distract you from trauma. And we all have trauma. We all have trauma. And people laugh at me when I use that word because it's so dramatic.
Right.
But trauma, there's varying degrees of what trauma is. And I think some of the worst trauma is the trauma that you inflict on yourself by comparison, by resentment, bitterness. And it's like, and all those people that say, just let it go, fuck off, because it's not that easy. It's really not. If it was that easy, we would be like, oh, I'm happy today, but we hold on to things because we feel justified. Either it's the fuel for what we're trying to accomplish in spite of, or we feel justified. It's comfortable. The pain is like, well, we're so afraid to let go of the pain because we're afraid of more pain coming that we stew in that pain because at least we know it's familiar and comfortable.
Right. It's like familiar. What's so interesting is the worst person I spoke to was myself, 100%, right? But I mean like really weird stuff, I'd say. Like I'm talking like really mean things. And Pema says, which is not easy, you're supposed to be as kind to yourself as like a mother bird to a baby bird. And that to me is, I probably never get there, ever. But every day I can work at doing that a little bit more. And then that's a spiritual warrior right there. Like every day I can try and get a tiny little bit better. But slowing down has been, I think everyone has taken a little step back and seen, I think the slowing down has been essential for a lot of people. A lot of people just to see the things in daily life.
Right. Kelly Schubert says, so true, Jason. We've had to sit down. It's hard for my ADD self because I'm used to go, go, go too. And I'm ADD as well. And like, that's one of the things. Also, into Kelly's point, insecurity right now, especially when you're a type A go-getter, especially and LA is full of prom kings and prom queen type A crazy folks, right? That are just like overachieve at all costs because that overachievement is a validation of an insecurity, right? It's a validation. Well, if I overachieve, then it compensates for what I feel that I lack. And now there's nothing to achieve. Now we have no choice but to just be like, okay, well, like, I'm guessing I'm going to pet my dog today, or go for 9 walks, because like the status quo has been obliterated, has been upended and eviscerated because of this silent killer we can't see. But the good news is that for like a phoenix in the through the ashes, we are finding new ways to exist. What we're doing now, I would have never have gone live on Instagram prior to COVID. Now
I was just gonna say, look at your show, like this show.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no status quo, but you made one. I mean, Pema says this too. She says, there's earth, wind, air, and fire, and ground in everything you do, okay? And what do Americans, specifically Westerners, want? They want ground, 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 ground. You want to know beneath your feet that you, and especially LA type A people, that you're going to do well and move on. And the one thing in life is, if you can get to the fact is, there will never be ground. There's never any ground. That's like, whoa, dude. But you paved the ground. That takes so much chutzpah. Do you know what that is? Chutzpah.
Yes.
Okay. Like balls. Okay.
Yeah, well, and also one, thank you. And I think, Tori, much like yourself, and like just really going down the Tory Shulman rabbit hole and just going through your story and watching clips from years ago and just everything you've done, from Tipsy Tory to just everything. I think there's something to be said about the human spirit and how that's fueled by ambition. And how ambition, people, especially women, when people look at ambitious women, she's a bitch, she's overbearing, she's this. I love an ambitious woman. I think, as a matter of fact, I would rather watch a woman. I enjoy watching women on TV than men. And I say it time and time again. I say it, like, ask Erica Cobb, she'll tell you.
I was going to ask Erica.
I say it time and time again. I think there's something to be said about a woman who, and not because she's a woman and that women historically are supposed to be docile, but just the fact that we know this is a male-dominated world. Even for an LGBTQ plus gay black man who is a male, who allegedly, reportedly, there are claims that I have privilege being a man, which I haven't experienced those, but I see, as a marginalized group of people, what women have to go through in order to ascend and acquiesce and get to places that are lauded and paramount. So when a woman as yourself has had this story and has stuck it out, and even though you come from privilege and you have had a life, you still have been able to be like, well, that's not who I am. My story is beyond that, and my struggles are just the same as anyone else, because I choose to I don't know, go the road less traveled and not be entitled.
Totally.
And it's so impressive. And I think that with COVID, more and more people are finding out, are opening their eyes to what privilege is, and the conversations that are being had are just so needed. And you're having those conversations every day with people on DBL. Are there days where you walk away from that chair and feel like you didn't make a difference, that you weren't impactful?
Yeah, I'll give you an example, right? Like, we talked about Melania's speech. I study first ladies. I love first ladies. I think they have a really big role in this world. And I think Betty Ford Center to Jackie Kennedy and the Kennedy Center to Laura Bush, who helped with literacy, to Barbara Bush. There's been, of course, to Michelle Obama, a really interesting way that they have made their sort of way in life. And I think Melania, in my personal opinion, has sort of wasted that. And I think she's complicit. And I find her to be somewhat racist because of her birtherism that she kept pushing, okay? Well, she gave her speech, and I didn't want to really piss off anyone. And I said, yeah, she did nice. She did it in the road. She was nice and all that. And what I really wish I could have said is, she's made up that she went to the University of Slovenia. There is no University of Slovenia. And done a deep dive onto this person, although you think she's kind, had a big role and responsibility, never took it. In fact, used it against, in a racial way, our former president and his first lady. So I find her appalling as a first lady, but I couldn't say that. I felt bad that day, but I can say it on my own, and I'm allowed to say it to you, and I can say it on my Twitter. But saying, you know, I don't know. That day I felt like I wish I could have done a little bit more. But you have to play that game of like, it's that tightrope. And I just chose the safer route that day.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, you have so much, when you are thrust in the public eye, as you are with thousands and thousands of people on multiple platforms, because the chat on DBL alone is very active. And yeah,
Dude.
very active. Like people, it's a whole other world in that chat, which is really cool. But that's exactly what DBL wanted to do. You know, we're your fifth host. You guys throw it to us to be a part. And I think that's why the show was so successful. Season 4 is around the corner, right? You guys are about to premiere. How has the show grown to you, and where do you think it's going?
Okay, so like I also think this happens in terms of what's trendy, right? You know, because as a host, it used to be like, hey, welcome, I'm blah blah Veronica Corningstone, like real host, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that turned from in the 90s to the 2000s. You were there. The auditions, they did not want hosty. They wanted like real. That's why we were chosen to audition. So my authenticity worked out in my favor in that way. But 2, I would say, is DBL started as very goofy. And I mean that in a very like, kind of way. Mm-hmm. And I think it was lovely and fun. But as soon as the school shootings happened and we were at Parkland and we were live the next day, the show, we all made a decision that the show would change and actually say something. I think we all just felt like we're not saying anything. So when stuff goes live, they do not shy away from our hosts just doing it, because as a viewer, you want to cope with someone watching it just like you are watching it.
Right.
So our show turned serious. I think it got credibility. It looks better. We made Al put suit on instead of wearing like cool snake outfits. Like it was really weird. And we didn't go away from the desk as much. If you notice, we did a lot of shooting outside. And when we did focus groups, people kept saying, stick with the chemistry of the talent of the desk. So we just stayed at the desk. So that was a big change from like, we're kind of fun daytime to like, no, we're having a real conversation here and we want you involved. So that's been great.
And it looks great visually, but also just the conversations you guys have. Kelly says, remember coming in hot? I remember coming in hot.
Yeah, I remember that.
Coming in hot. Demi Lovato's new album. Are we going to listen to it?
Oh,
Black Lives Matter, Tori, inescapable still. Yeah. May and June was fever pitch when it comes to racial injustice and just racism in our country in general. You sit next to 3 people of color every day. Lindsay, Erica, Al. For you, being an ally, what does that mean to you, being an ally? Because I have conversations with my non-POC friends about being an ally, and they can't articulate nor quantify nor really wrap their head around being an ally, because they never have to think about it. But for you, you talk about this every day. You sit so closely and work so closely and have relationships with people who are not of your experience. What does being an ally mean to Tory Shulman?
That's so interesting. You know what? You know Double Dare, the host
Mark
Summers was on, and he looked at me and he goes, we're on with all 3 African-American people. I've never been on a show like that. It was like, wow. And I had not noticed, but to that generation, it is sort of a big deal. Brandon, Erica, Lindsay, Al, I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, no, but to have that input, I've always been very liberal, and I've always marched and been part of protests. My parents were very, very loudly blue Democrat through and through, right? I learned through this web that something that's really important to my friends who are people of color is addressing in the moment a microaggression.
Sure. Yeah.
I can't tell you how that has changed my relationship with people I have been thought of as incredibly close to me. And it happened the other month, and all I did is I sent a text being like, hey, I didn't think that was cool. I didn't really like that. And the response was breathtaking, because she was like, I thought I was crazy, the whole time. Yeah. I think if I were as a Jew, I'd want someone to do, as an ally, I want to do basic reading. I want to educate myself. If there's white fragility and books like that I can read, I should expect that I would read those books. I should know my past and the historical context of what I'm talking about. I should also put myself in that position of this wasn't that long ago, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think people forget how I'm 38. Martin Luther King was shot down when he was 39. I mean, he didn't make it to 40.
Right.
So everyone's like MLK, peaceful protest. We shot him.
Right.
So, I mean, it's sort of an odd thing. So to me, I use my education and my history to make people remember what happened, who John Lewis was, what was the Edmund Pettus Bridge, what did he do to get you to vote, and why that's important now. If you don't take the time to fundamentally read the basics, I find that, this is going to sound weird, aggressively lazy. Does that make sense?
100%, because violence against people isn't always physical. I say it time and time again. Microaggressions is a form of violence against someone that doesn't require you a skin meeting another body part, right? So making a choice, and also Diva Miner says, beautifully said, Tori, I would agree in the comments, making a choice to educate yourself is one, effort, right? It's that, and it's because it's the impetus of you wanting to support. It's the effort, and I think people lack that so much. So for you to have that wherewithal is just so awesome. And I think people are fearful of, I know for my friends that are not Black or not people of color, they just don't know what to say. Right. But also in a time where we have cell phones and laptops with Google and everything, it's just like, okay, well, figure it the fuck out. Like, it's really easy.
Kind of, a little bit. Like, I kind of feel like I don't need you to be my Black teacher a little bit, right? Like, I'm fine being your Jewish teacher, that's fine. But if you, I agree. I think it's the effort that it takes to show that if Black lives really matter, that you read into what happened.
Right.
And I think that's really, I also like, DC just like was such an inspiration for me as learning to grow up. I learned about the Supreme Court cases, Brown v. Board of Education, like Thurgood Marshall's grandson went to my high school. So it's that weird mix of like just being really politically activated really helped. It really helped. Yeah.
I would agree 100%. Coming from that pedigree absolutely informs your decisions and your thought processes. Before I let you go, Tori, because the Instagram's going to kick us off, Brooks, your husband, the love's flourishing in quarantine, yeah?
Like, really well. Wait, let me make a really ugly face. Oh my God. No, because we don't have kids, and I'm 38, and all my friends who have kids are having, I just feel, for us, we've been gardening and cooking, and I drink wine, and we have a hammock, and we've just fallen in love in a different way, but trust me, it's because we don't have kids to deal with. So I know that was a choice, and I know how hard it is if you do, that it's not the same. But for us, it's been really kind of like Smoochyville. Hey,
it is what it is, though. That's your lot in life. Tori, oh my God, it's been so great talking to you. I love you too. When does DBL premiere again, and where can they watch it, and how can they get involved and become a fifth host themselves?
Okay, so everyone, make sure you watch Monday through Friday. You can watch and just check Daily Blast Live to find out where in your area it's showing. And then you can always watch on YouTube and Facebook. It streams every single day, Monday through Friday, live. And you can write in and we'll respond interactively.
And where can they find you on social media beyond Instagram?
Tory Shulman, real Jewy. It's SH, no C. And then for Instagram, it's I am Tory Shulman, because I thought that's like cool to do.
It is cool. Well, I'm Jason Carter official, because that was cool one time.
Right, there was always a moment.
Right. I am Tory Shulman's like, it's so declarative. Like, I am Tory, like, who do you think you are? Beyonce? I am Tory Shulman.
I am Tory Shulman.
Tori, you are incredible. All the best.
Thank you for what you do. You kicked my butt to work harder, and thanks for your support. It means a lot.
Eternally, girl. I got you. You're incredible, and I celebrate you every single day, and you're killing the game, and you're just a freaking joy to watch, and you're so good at your job, and you are compelling television, and you for anyone that's a host that's watching Tori, I've learned how to be better and slow down and be in the moment on television watching you and your co-hosts every day. So trust me, the feeling is mutual love. The feeling is so mutual. Yeah. All right, girl, you go be wonderful with your carrots and your peas and your peaches and whatever. And we'll see you on Daily Blast Live.
Okay, bye, lovey.
Bye. See you later.
That was fun.